Good morning. Welcome to our Fairview Community Church service. Good to see everyone. The everyone I see is Mike and Miley, but I know others are coming on. So welcome to our church service this morning. It is good to gather with community, and I'm looking forward to gathering with all of you. So we're live. I'm going to check and see if any of you are on with me. I see Tom is on, and Walter, good to see you. You have been such a lovely join with me. Oops, I got to make my own quiet because you can hear that. So it is good to see you, and Tom, looking forward to seeing you in a few moments. Who else is on this morning? Oh, that's my mom. I can see she's on with a little heart there. So good morning, everyone. During this time, I'd love to see you type in that where you're at and what you're doing. Walter, what brought you here this morning. Love to be able to see you and hear what you have to say. So there's my mom saying hello. I can see that there's 5 of you on, so I know that you're here. I'm just curious who is. So welcome. Today is Trinity Sunday, and we'll talk more about that. We don't always celebrate this day, but traditionally it is the Sunday after Pentecost, and all week long I wrestled with how to follow the liturgical day while also being mindful of what is happening in our community. And I jokingly, well, not really jokingly, I named my sermon the Triune Sermon because it's 3 sermons in one, like our Trinity Sunday. So you'll have to tell me what you think when we get to it, because it is a challenge of being able to address all of these things with this liturgical day and looking at our world and how do we respond as Christians, as people of faith in this day and time. And certainly it is important that we gather here in this moment for spiritual reflection, to recharge our batteries and come together in community so that we can do the hard work that is required of us as Christians in our community today. So who else is on? I see George Thompson is on. I'm hoping I get to come by and wave to you today, George. Let's see. We've got my daughter on. Here, you can hop up before we start the church service and say hello to our church family. Good morning. We're getting ready for church over here. We're going to take communion together. We know that Mike and Miley are going to take communion together, and we hope that you'll all take photos of yourselves taking communion. So that's a good reminder that it is Communion Sunday. It's time to get your elements, and we'll talk more about that later, but those elements can be anything. When we take communion and make it holy, we recognize that that which we eat and bless is a blessing to us, and we make it holy by participating in the sacrament. So good time now to run into your kitchens and grab whatever those elements might be. It can be bread and grape juice, or it can be anything else. The Caracas clan over there is going to have mango juice and chocolate covered gummies as their communion. So we can have any kind. I think that's made an appeal to my daughter. So go ahead, and I got a thumbs up from Miley. I know that's right, and a thumbs up back from Molly. So go ahead and hit your kitchen now, because we have a few moments before we start so you can get your communion elements. I see that Elena is on, and Haley's on, and your grandma's on, Miley. I see that she's on with us too, and Erica's on all the way from Boston, post-run, staying safe. And we're all on together as we gather our community into this space, making our spaces holy as we intentionally gather with one another. So here's my daughter intentionally gathering with me, and my family will also be celebrating communion together. Hi, Michelle. It's good to see you. Elena's mom's on too. I just really love that we extend far beyond our Fairview family into our literal families as we extend our own family members the opportunity to worship with us. And so it really does live out that family church as our families join us. Thank you all for joining from the far places that you're joining, and we're happy that you're here. All right, who else is on? We know we've got lots of folks coming on. Say your good mornings. It's nice to see you greeting one another. We greet each other. Good morning, Molly. All right. Welcome to church. Right, Miley? I can see Miley. No one else can see her, but I can. Good morning.
I can see her.
Oh, well, Molly can see her. That's one advantage we have as we do church in multiple places. We have our moderator, Mike, as you all know, is managing this entire service from his own home and his own computer, making sure that we get everything back and forth and the music works. And wait till you hear the music today. We have some beautiful music for Trinity Sunday as we sing Holy, Holy, Holy. And Mike Phillips did a great job of coordinating and creating that music. And our former music director, Jim Sherry, who's a member of our church, played about 5 different instruments to make it happen. So we know that this will be a very special service for all of us. All right, who else is on? Matthew's on. Daryl. This is my Costa Mesa buddy. Daryl is the one who connected me to one of my dearest friends of all, Rabbi Stephen Einstein, because you read the Daily Pilot, and it's one of my favorite stories of all. So it's good to see you on, and I'm so glad that you're worshiping with us. He's part of the Jewish community, and I like to think of your temple as your synagogue as our sister, and we sort of have so much in common, and we share in similar values and even theology. There's Jim. He's watching. I was just talking about Jim and his music, and looking forward to hearing that. All right, Lyle and Martha, my dear friends from IUCC who have been on the last several weeks. It's good to see you, and I'm so glad that we get the opportunity to share in our worship experiences. Now you can go to 2 or 3 churches in the morning. So that's all fun. We can do so much that we couldn't do before. There's a couple of new aspects to this ministry that give us the ability to move beyond the boxes that we were used to being in. So good morning, good morning. I can't really tell how much time we have before we actually start the service. We've got 3 more minutes, says Mike. I'm so lucky to have him right before me in this funny way. Thank you, Molly. There's 3 more minutes till the church service starts. So just imagine that we are in the narthex and we are giving you hugs like this. I can't hug all of you, but I can hug Molly, and that'll be the hug that I give to you. Molly will hug you too. We miss you, church. I got the chance to see some of you this week. I saw Elena and Adam and Assunta at the Irvine Civic Center protest. Sometimes. Yes, but we didn't see her this week. We saw Adam, Assunta, and Elena at the Irvine Civic Center protest for Black Lives Matter, which had like thousands of people. Thankfully, we were intentional about keeping our social distance, even though I had to walk quite a ways in order to find them. And then my family was so blessed to see KJ Smith and the Smith clan yesterday as we celebrate his graduation. We will have a Dads and Grads Day in just 2 weeks where we'll celebrate all of our graduates, and Joshua Jaramillo is one, as well as Jamie Harris. And if there's someone else I'm missing who's graduating this year, please, please, please send me a text and let me know. What's our countdown like, Mike? Am I talking too much? We got about 1 minute before the service is going to begin. So once more, a reminder that you should go head into your kitchen and find yourself some communion elements, and whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that we are intentional in taking this communion, making it holy, and participating in the sacrament. And so with that, we invite you to get ready and sing in our opening song, Come Now is the Time to Worship, for now is the time to worship. All right, we'll continue worshiping together.
Bye. Now is the time to worship God. Now is the time to give your heart. Come just as you are to worship. Come just as you are before your God. Every day we live in the light of God's love. Every day we walk by faith. Now we're here to open our hearts once more. Now we give thanks for grace. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God.
Come, now is the time for worship. Welcome to Fairview Community Church as we make this intentional time to worship together. I love beginning with that song, especially with its inclusive lyrics that were written by our pastor emeritus, the Reverend Dr. Gary Barmore, because that's what we seek to do. Every day we seek to live in the light of God's love. Every day we walk by faith. And so here we are joining together, walking by faith in a very difficult time in our world and lives to walk with faith. But we do so together as we seek the guidance from our God to really and truly seek and live out justice in our world. So welcome this morning. We know that you have lots of places that you can be at as we can worship anywhere online these days. So we thank you for joining and worshiping with us. We are Fairview Community Church, and we are a proudly open, welcoming, and affirming congregation of both the American Baptist Churches USA and the United Church of Christ. We are normally located in Costa Mesa in the corner of Fair and Fairview, but now we reside online with everyone else, and we know that we reach far distances from Germany to South Africa last week, across the nation, and right here speaking truth to power in Orange County. So we welcome you to worship with us this morning, and we are so glad that you are here. As you know, you're probably watching on Facebook, and we do encourage you to share that on Facebook. All you have to do is push the share button. I think it starts your own watch party. That's what it does for me, but you can toggle back and forth between live and watch party, and you can invite your friends. And that's a great way for us to spread the message, the good news of God's love and call for justice in our community, and talk about how we as progressive Christians can really respond. I think now is the moment that our church is more important than ever. So let's share that good news by sharing your Facebook feed right now and inviting others to join with us. You can also share in our Dial a Sermon, which we've made available for anyone who doesn't go online. All they have to do is dial 714-656-4130, and they can listen to the sermon and a couple songs on the phone and thereby participate in our worship service. Unfortunately, they miss out on this and all the comments going on the side, but they do get the opportunity to stay connected, and I've heard from so many that they really enjoy and are thankful for this ministry. And I'm thankful that they have the opportunity to connect and be part of us. So thank you so much to everyone who has made this service possible. As always, we thank our music director, Michael Phillips, who's working with the music team to create our music each week. I thank Mike Karakis, our amazing moderator, who is definitely doing double duty, sometimes triple duty, in this case, as he plays the role of our worship director, maybe we could even say. He's doing a technology that's making sure that all of this is working and we're going in and out of the different videos so that we can actually experience our worship service with as many faces and voices as possible. And of course, Elena Hurst has taken the music that she and the music team created, and the PowerPoint that Cindy, our office manager, created, and she puts them together into a video and then sends them to Mike. So there are a lot of hands that go into creating this service, and we thank all of you so much for making it happen. It is going to be a good service, and one of the things I love about the goodness of gathering on the first Sunday of the month is that we take in communion. And as we partake in communion, I invite you to grab your elements. You could sort of make a run for it or a mental note of what you're going to do now as you prepare yourself to grab either your juice and your bread. It might be something else. We've participated month after month using different elements, and I encourage you to do the same, but think about what you're going to use, and if you haven't already grabbed it, you can make a little run for the kitchen and find yourself something to take communion with a little later on in the service. Well, we have already begun greeting one another, and I've enjoyed that. And I think now more than ever, we need to take this opportunity to connect, because this has been a hard week that was preceded by hard weeks. And so as we pass the peace this morning, I invite you to consider how you really pass the peace. In what ways have you manifested peace? In what ways have you witnessed peace? In what ways will you commit to creating peace? And you could just do that in a word or a sentence as you greet each other. I think that will help us deepen this experience and maybe even find ideas, if nothing else, hope in a community gathered, committed to follow the peacemaker, our Jesus, brother, teacher, Son, and the Christ. So let us share in passing the peace by passing the peace. We'll do that in just a moment, but let me remind you that as I'm speaking of connecting, we will be connecting after church on Zoom, where Tracy Breyer will host us in a fellowship time. So we hope that you'll come to that. So let us pass our peace and partake in singing as we join together in the song, Holy, Holy, Holy. And we can't technically hear each other, but I think it's even more important now to sing out, because when the time comes for us to gather, we won't be able to do communal singing. So it means even more that we know we are singing together in this moment in time. So let us sing and pass our peace and share in hope and love and joy as we sing out, Holy, Holy, Holy.
Holy, 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 God the Almighty. Early in the morning we praise your majesty. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. Holy, 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 saints adore you truly, casting down their golden crowns around the glassy sea. Cherubim and seraphim bow before you only, from the beginning, God eternally. Holy, holy, holy,
the Sunday after Pentecost is known as Trinity Sunday, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but what a perfect song to sing as we recognize this day and digest its meaning. I know that everybody is wondering when we will go back to normal, when we will go back to church. Well, we are in church, and this in so many ways is our new normal. I don't think we're going to have the ability to return to whatever our normal was before, but we have a new opportunity to create and evolve in normal as we are intentional in our connection and worship and intention to be church together. So many of you have contacted me when we're going back in the sanctuary. We do not currently have plans to go back to our sanctuary just yet. There's a long list of guidelines that the state put out, but actually when we overlook them, we don't think they're strict enough, and we don't think that it can keep us safe enough. As time goes by, we'll watch and see what happens, and then we'll respond in a way that is as safe and healthy as possible so we can care for all of you, and most certainly the most vulnerable among us. So remember, if you need anything during this time, we invite you to reach out. We do have a dedicated team of volunteers who want to help, and that team keeps growing. So we need some of those needs to grow too. We don't want you to be in need, but we want you to know that we want to respond to your needs. So if you are in need of anything, please reach out to us. You can contact me in any way you choose, by phone, email, Facebook Messenger, text. You can also contact us through the office at office@ocfairviewchurch.org. You can call our phone number, 714-545-4610, and get in contact with us, and we'll help get whatever that is that you need to happen. So thank you. I want to thank Olivia and Rebecca, who have hosted our mask ministry for the last several months now. It is winding down. They have created thousands and thousands of masks that have gone to first responders right here in our own community. I actually had the opportunity to meet Dawn this week, and she said nothing but wonderful things about Libby and Rebecca, and we're so happy. Libby sends her gratitude to all of you, as does Rebecca, and thanks you for participating by either dropping off fabric, or especially to Layla Guerrero, Carrie Lester, and Carol Morrison, who made some masks. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who have been so generous in these uncertain times. As we're finishing up our pledge campaign, we have just 1 week before our annual meeting. So if for some reason you haven't gotten your pledge in, we invite you and ask you to send those in straight into the office if you can. Either mail it in at 2525 Fairview Road, Costa Mesa, California, 92626, or please do email it in and just be specific about it. It's a pledge, and let us know the amount and the frequency at office@ocfairviewchurch.org. And that will get to our team on the board, our stewardship team who's creating the budget. And we are going to be presenting a budget to you in just a few days. If you'll check on Thursday's thoughts, be intentional to be able to open that budget. We'll, of course, go over it on Sunday, but for those of you that like to look ahead of time, that will be available. We want to be so intentional about making sure that all of our members can come next week. So please, please, please mark your calendars. Come to worship with us at 10 a.m., but then stay for our Zoom time, which won't really be a fellowship, although anytime we gather, it is fellowshipping. It will be our meeting, and we're going to need to hit a quorum. So we want to make our quorum, but more importantly, we want you there. We want our members to be part of this decision. So if you would just do me a favor right now, if you're planning on coming, type a little "I'll be there" so that Cindy can just do a little jot to know how many we have, so we can ensure that our folks are coming. And then I think our board will be contacting folks throughout the week, so that you don't get contacted. Let us know that you're coming, or if for some reason you can't come, either I'll be there or I can't make it. We want to get everyone on board so that we can pass our budget and have a successful annual meeting. So please let us be intentional in our gathering now and intentional in our gathering when we make important decisions for our church. And so I have one final announcement, and that is how much I love to see your faces when we are singing together. And our next project, you'll see one of them later in a few moments, but our next one, you may have read about in Thursday's Thoughts, is to carry the light. It's our favorite song. We sing it as we end the service each week. And now we want to see your faces singing it. So there are directions in Thursday's Thoughts. I've asked Cindy to please put them on the side now so that you can have that link. You can just copy and paste it. There is a link to our song, a video of it. We invite you to wear headphones if you can and sing along and video yourself as you're doing it wide angle and send that video to Julia Grace as she compiles all of us singing our song together. You kind of want to get this frame just basically from your chest up of you singing, but of course you can dance as you always do and show a little bit of your personality. Thank you so much for being a part of this church, for the ways that you give of yourselves, both as you give of your money and your hard work, but as you give of your time and your heart and this incredible love that you have, not only for this church, but for our world. And at a time such as this, we need to feel that love and emanate it because it is broken and it is pained and it is up to us to be part of the transformation. So with that, let us turn to prayer. As always, I will open the prayer and invite you to join in a space. You can say names aloud. You can type in a prayer. You can simply hold the silence as we pray together. I know that each of us is holding something, and more than ever, I've been aware that literally behind these walls, there are other folks who are holding something. And so let us be mindful in connecting to one another, connecting with our world, and connecting with our God. So let us pray. Holy, 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 Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, you who created our world, our lives, who redeem us when we fail to be all that you have created us to be, offering us new opportunities to choose different ways, to make wrongs right, to heal wounds, you who sustain us through the hard days of living, when it feels like the injustice of our world is just too much to bear. You, our God, manifest yourself among us. Be with us. Be with us as we wrestle with our privilege. Be with us as we seek to be better listeners than speakers. Be with us as we seek out your justice. Be with us as we witness the brokenness among us. Be with us to transform. Be with us to heal. Be with us, Emmanuel, God with us. For these are heavy days, and we have heavy hearts. A pandemic, a virus, one that ends when we distance ourselves from one another, and one that can only end when we unite together to see the ugly and name it. These are two viruses, both deadly, both in us. COVID-19, we leave to the scientists to beat, the doctors to treat, and each of us to do our parts. But the virus of racism cannot so easily be left to others to fix. Help us to discern our culpability and our pathway to healing. For these prayers and more, we pause and we lift up our hearts to you, O God. Hear our prayers. Now you join me in praying for all of the repercussions, the hurts of our world, the wounds. For a day when Black lives really matter to everyone. For only then will the statement, all lives matter, be true. Hold us. Hold us, O loving one. Hold us accountable. Hold us in your comforting arms. Hold us close. For you know the prayers of our hearts, the wounds of our world, and you invite us to follow. In the footsteps of the teacher, the preacher, the bread breaker, the table turner, the peacemaker, the wound healer, your son, our brother Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen. So let us continue this prayer as we seek to live out God's call in our community, to shine a light in darkness. We hope that you'll consider giving to our ministry here in Orange County. I think in this time and in this place, the work of Fairview Community Church continues to be necessary, and it is our call to do it. So let us give with open hearts and open minds. As we are not in person, we cannot pass the plate, but you know the drill. You can give by simply going online to ocfairviewchurch.org/donate. You can also give by text by simply texting the word GIVE, G-I-V, to 714-584-6990. I think both of those things are under here and somewhere on the side of how I'm speaking. You can always mail your check in to 2525 Fairview Road in Costa Mesa, California, 92627. We thank you so much for your gifts, for your love, for your generosity, and for your commitment to creating a better world, starting right here, the better community, where everyone's lives matter, especially in this time where there's a recognition that Black lives matter among us. So let us give.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, all creatures here below. Praise God for all that love has done. Creator, Christ, and Spirit one. Amen.
A reading from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 12 to 25. So then, brothers and sisters, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received a spirit of adoption. When we cry, Abba, Father, it is that very Spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. If, in fact, we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not of its own will, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay, and will obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we were saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience.
Thank you, Tom. It's good to see a new face up there. I've tried to make sense and salvage this sermon all week long. I tried to stick to the theme, the plan I made months ago, trying to be faithful to the liturgical Trinity Sunday and my own struggles with the language and its theological origins, and the reality that our world is crumbling before us. No prescribed day will work anymore. We can't just do what we thought we were going to do. All plans went out the window. So many of my colleagues said the same thing. We're all trying to make sense of what is happening in our world and in our lives, and adhering to plans just don't work anymore. So while I intentionally and originally intended on speaking about the Trinity, I found myself focused not on the implications of the meaning of Trinity, but the very counsels that dictated the creeds that uphold it and their mandate for believing Christians thereafter. I had written my whole sermon, and I realized that I was actually writing 2, maybe even 3 different sermons. One on the text, one on the history of the Trinity and the theological understandings of it, and the other a response to what is happening in our world. But then I thought about our ancestor of the late 18th and early 19th century, the great American Baptist, Paul Rauschenbusch, and the urgency with which he told us that we must embrace the social gospel with a newspaper in one hand and a Bible in the other. And I knew I had to scrap what I wrote early in the week to speak a word of truth for today. I needed to be faithful to the Spirit's stir. So even as I wrote and rewrote, I rearranged, added, deleted. It did the exegetical work. At this point, I can't even count the number of versions. My intent was to keep faithful to that original intent of the day and address what was happening in our world and the church as well. It is the season of Pentecost, after all, and the Spirit is stirring among us, jolting us out of our comfort zones and opening our eyes to see and hear in new ways. Unclog our ears, O Spirit. We have some listening to do. But nothing I was working on was coming together. Just wasn't happening. And that's the truth. What we're doing isn't working for any of us anymore. Just as we had finally gotten used to a rhythm in quarantine, a straw broke the camel's back when George Floyd was killed and his murderers untouched. Well, now charges have been brought against all of them. But what has awakened in our country is surely the stirring of the Spirit. Out of homes and into streets, people, young people, and old as well, have poured out to take a knee, to march, to demand justice. It is not always tame, though in majority it is peaceful. But over and over again, I have been reminded of the centuries of pains, wounds, abuse, and oppression that does not heal itself quietly. I am aware that as a white woman, I cannot fully understand, and I will not cast judgment. Instead, I will stand in solidarity, and I will listen. So me, trying to put my sermon in a box and neatly open and close it and fit it in the context of Trinity Sunday seemed like a farce. I knew I couldn't just take the easy way out and write what the calendar said I would. I was hoping I could puzzle this all together and somehow make everything fit. Is there a way to talk about it all in 20 minutes or under? I doubt it. In my second version of the sermon, I decided to focus on the origins of the Trinity and how the concept came late, that it was created as a response to Constantine's conversion to Christianity and the need to decide who was in and who was out. that orthodoxy and heresy was a state creation. It is not biblical. Although some might say it is derived from Scripture, yes, places like Paul and the Gospel of John. But it is largely man-made. Yes, I said man-made because they were men. It's a largely man-made concept. Like so many, I am infuriated that the President of the United States gassed peaceful protesters and commandeered a church for his own photo op, forcing the church out of their courtyard where they were providing ministry, food, water, and medical services, and without warning caused them to run for fear of their own safety. Friends, this is an egregious overreach of the government. We believe in separation of church and state. We have the right to religious freedom. That's not just something that we at Fairview believe. That's something that we as a country believe. And yet we have a case here where a church was forcibly stopped from doing their mission and ministry without warning so that the president could use their church for his own purposes. This should blow your mind. Now, one of the reasons our church is a non-creedal church is precisely because the creeds, which codified the concept of the Trinity, were mandates of the state. As non-creedal churches, we were founded as response to the state churches, like the Roman Catholic Church or the Church of England. We originated as a protest to state-founded churches. So inherent for me in a day like Trinity Sunday is a claim on our own Baptist and congregational heritage as non-creedal churches who don't have to believe in a Trinity if we don't want to. And an affirmation that the government cannot tell us what to do, how to worship, or kick us out of our churches. Now, that's not the only problem I have with the Trinity. I've shared with you before some of my struggles with this theological precept. You can have more further conversations with me on that. But I think that there is something powerful about thinking about the different aspects of God experienced by humanity. And as I contemplated this particular scripture, I could see the Trinity reflected in God's manifestations. I mean, after all, this morning's scripture speaks of God, our parent, the creator that imbues the Spirit. If ever we needed to cry out for Abba, it is now. I can barely even allow myself to think about George Floyd dying, calling out for his mother. Abba, Mama. How we need our parent God to hold us, to save us, to comfort us in this time of heartache, when comfort seems nearly impossible to find. There is no solace. But if comfort is to be had, it can only come from the arms of a loving God. A father, a mother, that which created life and imbued us with breath. With breath. And when our breath exhales, it is that mama, that Abba, that parent that holds us close. Our Abba, Mother, Creator, imbues the Spirit. That very Spirit is not one of slavery to return to living in fear, Paul says, but a spirit of adoption that says we are children of God. That alone is a message that we can lift up and celebrate today as our black siblings are seeking to be heard, their lives to matter. They will not return to slavery. There is no turning around. Even as the powers of this world would invoke fear, with the Spirit, there is no falling back into it. Though everything seems crazy. That's almost an insane statement to make. There is so much to fear. How relevant these words are when the military is out in force. Guns for hire are said to have infiltrated our streets. My feed is filled with images of deep bruises from people like public radio reporter Adolfo Guzman Lopez. And too many of those who ran from the church that day, their eyes are burning, their legs peppered with rubber bullets. Well, there is a lot to fear. There is a lot to fear. But the Spirit tells us that we will not fall back into it. And then there's Jesus. Jesus the Christ,
who Paul experienced in a post-resurrection spiritual epiphany, but who was the man who embodied the Spirit on earth. Christians have tried to make sense of this understanding, this embodiment throughout the centuries. But ultimately, if we are to see Jesus as the embodiment of God, we are to see the Spirit alive in the person that was in the flesh, in his teachings and his preachings, the actions he took while he lived on this earth, then this man who lived with the poor, who fed the hungry, who brought healing to the sick and to the broken, has something to teach us. He lived in solidarity with humanity. And not just any. Those who were on the margins. Jesus, the man who was killed, strung up and lynched on a cross by a corrupt empire that feared his power. That's who Jesus is. And even as I contemplate all of this, I do so with the backdrop of not only what is happening in our country, but also as I grapple with the loss of our church. Marty Barmer called me crying this week as she thought about Ernestine dying now, in this moment in time, after spending her life working for racial justice amidst this unrest and a devastating reminder that there is still so much work to be done. In 97 years, she couldn't do it all. I spent all of Thursday writing my words for tomorrow's service with her family, and all I could do was think about how Ernie helped to shape our church and our experience. Her willingness to first integrate First Baptist Church in Santa Ana with courage and fearlessness when she was not welcomed in their church, but she bravely walked into Jesus' church and did his work anyway. And then she did it here, too. For decades, her presence among a largely white congregation helped to shape the minds and hearts of the good people of Fairview. And so now, as we witness a nation torn apart by a race war that has been stoked by the fires of hate and injustice, we know where we stand with Ernestine. So does all of this fit together in a sermon? I don't know. Perhaps it's as disjointed as our world, and for this, I am sorry. Both for my inadequacies and for the inadequacies of our nation to serve all of its people. There is much to lament. All of creation is groaning, wailing, mourning. And yet perhaps we groan, wail, and mourn to birth something new. To weep and rage for our country, the loss of our freedoms, the infringements upon our religious rights, to wail and see that the injustice that continues against people of color and those who stand with them as flailing governments seek to wield its power in a pathetic attempt at silencing our freedoms. To mourn and remember George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the names of those we don't know, but the one name we do, who loved us and shaped us and dared to transform the most segregated hour of the week. That's right, the Sunday morning hour of worship, our own Ernestine Ransom. Because of her, we will march on. We will not be silenced. We will walk with hope. Hope, which will save us. Hope, which cannot always be seen, but hope that we will await for and work for because of our Ernie, because of George, who we did not know, and all the others. And because we know that the God of our universe, experienced in many ways as creator, redeemer, sustainer, parent, Christ, and Spirit, God in us, among us, with us. Hope will guide the way. Amen. And now, as we prepare ourselves for communion, we have an opportunity to think about the things that keep us from fully experiencing God. from fully answering God's call in our lives and in our world. This is our chance to let go of the things that hold us back and confess our stumbling blocks. Perhaps that means to name our privilege and our struggle with how we reconcile our lives in the context of our world. This process can be powerful, humbling, forgiving, and uplifting. For all of us have intentionally or unintentionally been involved in a system of injustice. For the times we have not condemned or even failed to recognize institutional racism, for the missed opportunities where we were too blind, ignorant, or busy to take note. Forgive us. Forgive us, God. The last few months I've shared with you a camp tradition from Pilgrim Pines Camp and the way we celebrate communion with the senior high. I share it with a little bit of sadness, well, maybe even a lot of sadness, knowing that this year, for the first time in decades, our summer camp won't be happening at our beautiful mountain sanctuary of Pilgrim Pines. But I'm so thankful because our outdoor ministry team has done some really out-of-the-box work and then stuffed camp into a box, and we'll be sending it out to any and all who want to participate. So there is an opportunity to embrace in the Pilgrim Pines experience, not only in a few moments as we do communion, but throughout the summertime. My mom thankfully signed my daughter up, and we're excited about that opportunity. And if any of you want to sign up, will you please let me know? I'll get you the details, and if there's anything that's keeping you from the ability to do that, our church wants to make sure you have that opportunity, so please contact me. And now we all can have a little bit of that summer camp experience by doing that out-of-the-box thinking. Because what the campers did was take communion not with your everyday bread and juice, but they took it with the things that were meaningful for them. And that reminds me so much of Jesus, who took what was common and available and everyday when he blessed the bread, because he wanted to ensure that they would always be accessible to everyone. So I don't know what you have before you, but it really doesn't matter as long as you're intentional about breaking it, eating it, and drinking it with Jesus. So go find what it is that works for you. It might be bread or toast or a muffin. There's some graham crackers out there. I know folks did s'mores before. And then please do send me photos. I love to watch you taking communion, especially when I can't see you before me physically. So each of us will take our elements. And I invite you to do the same alongside me. So remember that Jesus took the bread and lifted it and broke it, saying, "This is my body, broken for you." Broken. Like our world, like our hearts, like my body, like George's body, broken. Come to the table and face the brokenness. And when you do, may you be a part of the healing to transform it. May this bread sustain you. And likewise, he took the very cup that they had shared together, and he lifted it, and he said, "Let this be a cup of a new covenant, of a promise that I will always be with you, holy, holy, holy among you, manifested in you and with you. Each time you drink of the cup, may you know the blessings and feel my presence." And so it was. But they took and ate and drank together. And so it is, my friends. that we shall too. With the bread of life, the cup of blessings, may we be sustained. May we truly be one bread and one body who work together for the healing of our world. Let us sing.
One bread, one body, one Lord of all, one cup of blessing which we bless, and we, the many, throughout the earth, we are one body in this one. Gentile or Jew, servant or free, woman or man, no more. One bread, one body, one Lord of all. One cup of blessing which we bless, and we, the many, throughout the earth, we are one body in this one Lord. Grain for the fields, scattered and grown, gathered to one for all. One bread, one body, one Lord of all. One cup of blessing which we bless, and we, the many, throughout the earth, we are one body in this one Lord.
And so, brothers and sisters, go out into a world that is broken, hurting, ravaged with pain, yet ripe with hope. And let us meet the Holy there to create us, redeem us, and sustain us as we seek to heal this hurting and broken world. Amen. I look forward to seeing you on Zoom in a few minutes. Dr. King once said that darkness cannot drive away darkness. Only light can do that. And so, my friends, let us do what we are called to do and carry the light.
We all have witnessed your presence. We have received your grace. We give you honor and glory for moving into this place. Now we go out to share the good news. Now we go out to share